It's time to ignite your soul and unlock your full potential. Join us on Beneath the Helmet, the podcast exploring firefighters' health and wellness. Hosted by retired Fire Chief Arjuna George, our podcast is the perfect place to start your journey towards becoming the best version of yourself. So come on, let's join the conversation and find out what sets your soul on fire.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Episode 48, Season 2, Beneath the Helmet. Big shout out to everyone who's continuing to support us through this journey. Today, I get a chance to sit down for an hour to connect with a former battalion chief, a member of the Fire Service Psychology Association, an advocate for mental health, and also a published writer for Fire Rescue One. Today, I got a chance to sit down with Robert Avsec. So Robert and I are going to chat about several things that, in my opinion, would definitely improve the fire service long-term. There's two key elements that I personally got out of this conversation with Robert. One of those being the number one thing that we fear as firefighters or first responders. And that fear is losing the job that we so desire, that we so want, that is part of our life. And when we lose the job, either from a physical injury or a mental health injury, that hurts us. And that is one of the biggest fears that the fire service has right now. And I never really considered this too much, but I think that could be one of the huge elements that continues the stigma about reaching out for professional mental health care. If we can be ambassadors in the fire service about mental health, if we can promote it, everyone's experiencing mental health. There's no need to shy away from it. Let's support each other. Let's support our brothers and sisters, and let's make it an everyday conversation. By making it an everyday conversation, that fear of losing our job just by seeing a psychologist will dissolve away. A second part that I really got out of this was the fact about looking at the fire service much like sports, and how recovery and rehab from injuries, either mental health injuries or physical injuries, is looked at quite a bit differently in sports than the fire service, where resources and time and focused energy is put into the rehab of athletes. And I think this is definitely an interesting concept that we should look at deeper in the fire service, where we look at recovery and rehab a little bit stronger, a little bit more holistically. So some great nuggets in here. I hope you enjoy this episode. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. And also, if you haven't joined our Facebook community group, we'd love to have you there. Very like-minded individuals who are all there to support each other. Until next time, stay well. All right, welcome back, everyone. Another amazing episode of Beneath the Helmet. Today, I got Robert Avsec with us today. He is a retired battalion chief, but he's also heavily involved in the Psychology Association that we want to talk about today. So welcome to the show, Robert. It's a pleasure to have you. I know you're a busy guy and in high demand. So welcome to the show, and thanks for spending an hour with us.
Oh, you're quite welcome, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Awesome.
So, very intrigued when I got the invitation, and I hope I can meet your expectations.
Awesome. Fantastic. So for those who don't know who Robert is, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of where your journey through the fire service to today, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I first moved from southern New Jersey, where I grew up. I moved to Richmond, Virginia. I was in search of a fire department job because I wanted to be just like Johnny and Roy, the guys on emergency. I wanted to be a firefighter, paramedic. Got a job working as an EMT for the private ambulance service that has the emergency contract for the city of Richmond. So I found gainful employment, and then started putting in applications all across the state of Virginia, and was very fortunate to get hired by the James City County Fire Department, which is a county that surrounds the historic city of Williamsburg. And was there, was continuing to live in Richmond, so it was a 65-mile commute. And then one of my other job applications came through with the Chesterfield County, Virginia Fire and EMS Department, and they said, "Hey, want to come join us?" And I shortened my commute by about 3/4 and got a raise, and I spent the next 26 years with Chesterfield Fire and EMS. A wide variety of roles. I think I'm somewhat of an anomaly in the fire service in that out of those 26 years, I accumulated 9.5 years of staff positions.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
was in and out of operations
Mhm.
all the time. Managed our EMS division, a new division that we were standing up at the time. Was given an assignment outside of the fire department to co-manage our consolidated emergency communications center, being a police lieutenant, Bob Pridemore. So the two Bobs managing that, and did that for a couple of years. And then my last assignment, staff assignment, was chief of training for our training and safety division. So we were at that time, we were a department of about 320 full-time, protecting a population of about 310,000 regular residents, as well as, the usual in and out. I bumped into the cadet fire chief a couple months ago at the fire academy, Loy Center, and I asked him, so how big are we now? And he said we're over 600.
Wow.
Over 600. They
And what-
just graduated recruit school 68. I was recruit school 12.
Makes you
That
feel
don't
young,
make you
right?
feel, oh yeah, oh yeah, for sure. For
What year
sure.
did you retire?
I retired December 1st, 2007.
Okay.
So I've been
So-
retired 16 years now. It's hard to
Still,
believe.
Yeah, the population almost doubled in 16 years, though, right?
Well, I don't know about the population, but the workforce did.
The workforce, yes.
The
Okay, gotcha.
workforce did, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
For sure.
Mm.
Yeah. I remember my recruit school when we graduated at the summer of 82, we put our career personnel just over 100.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
huge
That's a big jump.
huge
Yeah.
growth. We went through a lot of different changes and so forth. But I say I've always felt, and I still feel, that I worked for one of the most progressive fire departments, at least east of the Mississippi, if not the country.
What makes it so progressive, in your opinion?
Well, I think the thing that made it was the fact that we had so much emphasis on developing leaders.
Great.
I mean, we developed in-house and together with some of the local higher education institutions, we developed an officer development program 1, which was targeted for firefighters seeking promotion to lieutenant, which for us is the company officer.
Mhm.
Okay. Then we developed ODP 2, which targeted lieutenants who were seeking promotion to captain, which is when you start to get into staff assignments, managing a fire station, that sort of thing. And then we started doing a week-long chief officer school, where we would bring in all of our chief officers, battalion chiefs, deputy chiefs, etc., helping them to up their game. And then the last thing that we put in place as far as leadership development, which was when I was managing the training and safety division. I didn't put it together. I had the wonderful opportunity to implement it, but we called it Applied Leadership for Company Officers, ALCO. And basically that was where we took everybody who was on the promotional list for lieutenant, and it was a once a week for 8 weeks, come in and taught them everything that they needed to know that first day when they walked into a fire station.
Hmm.
You know, how to schedule, how to maintain personnel files, how to do personal counseling, how to do evaluations, all of that stuff.
Right.
And then during the course of the class, okay, you might get struck out on an emergency, right? So it's okay, put down your pencils, folks, because we're going to a hazmat call. And we would do a simulated hazmat call, and when everybody would participate. Somebody would be designated as the incident commander, and they would start appointing their classmates as they saw fit in the process. And once the simulation was wrapped up in 10 or 15 minutes, okay, back to the fire station, back to work.
That's very cool.
So like I said, I think that's the thing that I'm most proud of and why I say that I'm proud of that organization is they've just kept doing that.
Right.
They've just kept doing it. It just keeps getting better. I think that's a key for any organization is you got to be able to grow your own.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Grow your own. I mean, I see so many times, but across the fire service spectrum of outside folks brought in to be the fire chiefs or whatever, and it seems like it's not many of them that last very long.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a rotating position every couple of years.
Yeah, and I think some of that is that uh, you the people who are doing the hiring, the city manager or the county administrator or whatever, is looking for somebody to fix the problems that they perceive exist in the department. Well, that's a tall order to ask anybody. Okay,
and to do it in a respectful, professional way as well, right?
Sure,
Anybody can come in there and clean house, but
sure, and I mean, and there are just as many people who are successful at that. That go on and have a long run in a particular department that they came into as an outsider. But I think that if you look at, if you could do a really good analysis across the spectrum, see that those organizations that are doing the right things, that are helping their people learn and grow, they're producing their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even if you don't use them,
future leaders.
Yeah, even if you don't use them as the fire chief in that capacity, you're building middle managers, middle leaders that are, far beyond what we have been seeing, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, depth with absolutely. We kind of say every seat is a leader, right? So even if you're in the back seat of the truck, you're a leader of some sort. Maybe not making directions or anything like that, but you're leading maybe the recruits. You're mentoring somebody, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing nowadays since retirement.
Well, I since I retired, I dabbled in a couple different things. Had a short-lived career as an operations manager for a private ambulance service. I've near here, Ironton, Ohio. And that was my first experience with clash of cultures. Because for someone who grew up in public service and in the public sector, it was a big change to the private sector. Okay. And, especially when the money starts getting tight.
Right.
Which that was, you may have heard we had this thing called a recession.
Yeah, 2008
in
or something.
2007. So about the time I retired and went to a new job, that was really starting to take hold. And, one thing I learned is that economic downturns really do hit the private sector first. Because when we had 9 ambulances in our fleet, all diesel powered. And so, when diesel fuel went above $4 a gallon, last guy hired, first guy fired.
Yes.
then I went down to, I was unemployed for a couple of months there, working hard to find another job because we had two house payments, one back in Richmond, one here in Ashland, Kentucky, and got a job down at the Georgia Fire Academy. Had up with a colleague on LinkedIn of mine, David Wall, at the time was the director, Georgia Fire Academy. Well, got an opportunity to go down there. They had gotten a $500,000 appropriation from the General Assembly, the legislature there, to develop a couple of different things, one of which was a chief officer training program, and that's what they hired me for. Well, about the time I got down there and spent 7 or 8 months working down there, that's when the recession started to hit the public sector, right? So the legislature give it, legislature take it away. And so, again, last guy hired, first guy fired.
Right.
And I got my last job was I went to back to Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia, and working for a management service company up there, big one called Caliber. And we did an awful lot of business with Department of Defense, particularly the U.S. Army, and I was one of the folks that was put on a contract working for the Army's fire chief. And this was in the Army's installation management being in Crystal City, Arlington. And we did the planning and logistics for the fire departments on, at the time it was 82 Army installations worldwide. So, apparatus replacement, new equipment, all that sort of thing came through our shop. But it was a temporary assignment because the Army was in the process of moving that whole command to San Antonio, Texas. So we were me and another fellow, John Van Landingham, we were the transition guys.
Right. Yep.
So after that, I started writing. I started doing my own blog called the Talking Shop for Fire and EMS. Just the guy writing, trying to articulate what I had learned over the years and what I thought about things and happening in the world of fire and EMS. And after about 5 or 6 months, I was cranking out like 2-3 articles a week. And I get this call from a guy named Rick Markley, who at the time was editor at firerescue1.com. And he said, "Hey, listen, I've been following your stuff for a little bit. I like what you're doing. Would you like to write for us?" I said, "Yeah, sure. How much you pay?" And he told me, right? And I said, "Okay, cool." That was about 12 years ago.
Good stuff.
And I've had the opportunity to continue writing for Fire Rescue One across all of their platforms, because they have the news, if you will, and then products. Different companies contract with them to produce materials for their websites and publications, etc. And I've also had the opportunity to do a lot of work in their Fire Rescue One Fire Academy, their online training programs. So it's kept me off the streets. I was working from home before it was cool or it was required.
True story. But isn't it amazing, to work from home?
Hey, you never know. You never know what's going down.
Yeah. Love it. I love how the leadership is definitely, the training and the leadership seems to be a constant in your career from day one to today, really, right? So I love that. Lifelong learner.
It is because there are a lot of different sayings that are stuck in my head all the time, but the one of them that particularly if you bring up this topic, right, is people don't leave the organization; they leave their boss.
Yes. True story.
And I think when you look at the recruitment and retention challenges that fire departments across whether it's career, volunteer, paid on call, the recruitment and retention struggles, okay, they're either going to be solved, or they're going to continue to be struggles based on what are your first line leaders doing. Okay, I in a way, I detest the term first line supervisors. You're a first line leader.
100%.
Okay, you're the person. You are the organization to those 2 or 3 people that may be on your crew. And I think that one of the keys, it's not the silver bullet. It's certainly one of those keys is departments need to make sure that those first line leaders are in fact leading.
When you're going through all your development of leadership for the officer level, how much of a concentration or how much of a focus was on mental health and self-care?
Well, back in the 2000s, when a lot of that was happening in my career, it wasn't on the radar.
Right.
Cancer wasn't on the radar. I retired in 2007, at the end of 2007, not on the radar. It was starting to become a little blip. Okay. But nothing like, particularly from the firefighter cancer, the last 15 years or so, everything that we've come to know, everything that we've learned, has started to make its way into the fabric of how an organization functions. And I tell my colleagues at the Fire Service Psychology Association all the time, I say, we are where firefighter cancer was in the 2000s, right? People are just starting to really talk about mental health. They're really starting to talk about, things beyond just intervention, things beyond just getting people to treatment. Okay. And so much of it, again, comes back to the organizations, right? What kind of a culture do you have in your organization when it comes to taking care of people? Okay. Matter of fact, the meeting that I was at this morning with a very experienced psychologist here in Charleston, captain with the Charleston Fire Department, talking about, I've come to the mindset or the thinking that you will of, there's not a stigma solely about firefighters seeking mental health. There's a stigma about firefighters leaving the job. Okay.
That's interesting.
I say it's a stigma, and perhaps that's too strong a word. Okay. But if you ask any firefighter deep down inside, what's your greatest fear? They're going to tell you not being able to do this job.
I think you nailed it there. It's the fear.
Okay.
It's not, it's the fear.
So many of us had to compete hard to get the job. You have to compete to keep the job. Okay. And so it's not just mental health, it's all health, right? It amazes me how many firefighters get surgery for injuries after they've left the job that they've been putting up with for 10 years. Shoulders, knees, okay, etc. Was talking with a fellow the other day, okay, and he was off the job for over 500 days from a workplace injury. The initial surgery didn't go well. There was continued the guy eventually tried to take his own life. Okay. Why? He was lonely. He was separated, right? When somebody gets hurt on the job physically, let's just talk physical for a moment, right? I blow out a knee. I have to have ACL surgery, right? Okay. athletes and everybody else come back from this all the time, right? But there's a big difference between how fire departments approach that and how football teams approach that. If I'm a running back and I blow out a knee, okay, what becomes my full-time job? Rehab.
100%.
And where is that rehab taking place? It's taking place at the training facility of my team. So my teammates see me every day busting my butt in rehab to get back on the team, to get back on the field. Okay. So when I do come back, there is no hesitation. There is no, is Robert going to be okay? Is he going to be good? Can he take it? No, they've seen me put in the work to get back. And from my perspective, okay, I have meaning in my life. I have to get up. I got to go to rehab, right? I have the opportunity to socialize with my teammates, even though I'm not suiting up on Sunday afternoon. I'm still. Now, contrast that with the way most fire departments approach it, and that is, come back when you're ready.
Yeah.
Oh, and before that happens, you're going to have a note from the doctor saying you're fit for duty. Okay. And then when you come back to the job, ooh, is Robert really?
Yeah.
Is he really?
Is he safe? Yeah.
Is he safe? Okay. Because I've been going for 8 months doing rehab. And let's face it, rehab is not this player, okay? Going to rehab 2 or 3 days a week is not going to get me back on the job as quickly as possible. And therefore, that means I'm out there all by myself a long time.
Yep.
Okay? A long time. I not only got the stress of being separated from my fire department family, but now my other family's got to put up with me 24/7.
And maybe financially as well.
And maybe financially as well, because how many firefighters are working 2 or 3 jobs, right? To pay the college tuition or to pay for the house and all of those things, right? So, when and these are the kinds of things that we've talked about within the Fire Service Psychology Association, okay? But we were talking about it over here mental health wise. And as I talked to others, I said, hey, look, we need to bring the whole thing in together.
Yeah.
Okay. So mental health, your mental health program isn't a standalone program. Okay. It needs to be integrated into your overall, because even that guy or gal who suffers a separated shoulder, there's a mental aspect to that that's just as big, if not bigger, than getting the shoulder fixed.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of thing that if more fire departments could move in that direction, okay, and get their people on board because they see it happening, right? That, hey, they do care. They are going to take care of me, right? They took care of Joe, right? That's the kind of thing that builds that trust in the organization, that belief, hey, I'm important. I'm important. I'm not just a number. I'm not just, another firefighter filling a slot.
Yeah. That's very interesting. So how, in your opinion, would the mental health aspect, how would you bring that in where people would see you doing the heavy work, see you concentrating on your own self-development? How would that work? Or how do you see that?
Well, the thing is, over the last 15, 20 years, there's been a great deal of emphasis on physical training, right? A lot of fire departments have brought physical training equipment into the fire stations, etc. I know at our training and safety academy, which was a joint police and fire academy. We had a well-appointed workout room, right? Could accommodate 15, 20 recruits in there doing weight training and so forth and so on. Get yourself even if you contract it out on a case by case basis. Okay. Robert hurt his knee, right? We got to do some rehab, whatever. Okay. Robert, 4 days a week, you're going to show up at the training center and we're going to have Jimmy or Sally come in. They're a physical therapist, and they're going to take you through your rehab. Okay. And chances are, particularly if you're looking at your whole public safety team, right? If you got a couple of police officers, a couple of firefighters, maybe a paramedic, right? Now you're making it cost effective to bring Jimmy or Sally in, to work with these people until you get them back on the job. Then Jimmy and Sally go back to wherever they were at. Right? You get a bigger department. Now, a couple of years ago, I did an article for Fire Rescue One about Denver Fire Department. That's exactly what Denver did. Denver not only went beyond the contracting part, they brought in a full-time physical therapist. And that's their job, is to get injured firefighters back on the job. And when there aren't any injured firefighters, knock on wood, to go out and work with personnel in the fire stations to get better at doing the workouts that they were doing. Maybe help somebody not do something that they shouldn't be doing, because that's, I know one thing. After I got my rotator cuff fixed after I retired, one of the things that my physical therapist told me was, okay, because they knew that, I like to train with weights. I've trained with weights ever since I was a kid, playing football, playing baseball. They said, whatever you do, don't do these anymore.
Mhm.
Don't do presses over your head. Okay. That's why you got that shoulder fixed, right? All that work over the years of stuff above the level of your clavicles, your shoulder wasn't designed for that.
Mhm.
Ooh, okay.
Mhm.
I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that.
Mm.
How many firefighters know that?
Yeah.
How many firefighters are aware of the fact that they may be doing something that they think is making them better, and in fact, it's setting them up for the rotator cuff to blow out when they go to get that vent fan up here,
Mhm.
right? Boom. There they go.
Hmm.
So
That's a very interesting concept. I love it. I want to dig into it a little deeper. I'm heading to Denver shortly, so maybe I'll stop in there.
yeah, check it out.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, I'd be interested to see how it's going, because
Yeah.
at the time, it seemed like, wow,
Beautiful.
if you got the resources and you got the will, to me, that's the way particularly career fire departments need to go, right? And what better way to keep your folks connected
Yeah.
to the job, right, than to get the rehab in-house.
Yep. I like the holistic approach.
However you can accomplish that.
Yeah. I like the holistic approach where it's not just the physical injury, it's the mind, right? Because if you're out and like you say, your worst fear is losing your job. Now your knees out, your back's out, or backs are bad as well, right? That they're like, is this the end of my career? So now their mental health starts declining and their recovery is going to take just as, longer to get back on the job, right? So
Yeah, and
I love it.
especially if your rehab is tough,
Hmm.
you're talking about an ACL or a torn tendon, Achilles tendon,
Hmm.
or something like that. Hey, you're talking 6-7 months, and that's doing the rehab 4 or 5 days a week.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like they do in the pros, or like even your major college teams these days.
Hmm.
You know, you get hurt, you still show up for practice every day.
Hmm.
And, after you get the the latest info from the coaching staff that everybody else gets, while they go out there and start practicing, you go to rehab.
Yeah, I love it. So much we can learn from sports, really, in the fire service. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all team sport, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yep. Industrial athletes. Yep. So you talk about this tiered approach. We talked offline about this tiered approach to behavioral health, and much like a hazmat call. I'd love to dig into this a little deeper and see what that means to you, and I just want to learn more about it. So
Okay.
feel
All
good.
right. Hey, this is one of my favorite things to talk about.
Awesome.
Because like I said, the first time I ever talked with fire service folks about this, they were like, wow.
Hmm.
It's like I had shown them the Rosetta Stone or something. Okay. But think of our 4 levels of hazmat response, right? Or training, right? We have awareness level, we have operations, we have technician, we have specialists, right? So what do we teach in the awareness portion of hazmat training? We teach people how to recognize a problem, how to not become part of the problem, how to keep other people from becoming part of the problem. So they isolate, evacuate, deny entry, right? Call the cavalry.
Call for help. Yep.
Call for help, right? Bring that over to mental health, okay? Every firefighter and every officer should be trained in self-awareness, that, how am I doing, okay? And how's my buddy doing, right? The Canadian military does an awesome job of this, of preparing their people from boot camp, okay, of how to take care of themselves, how to take care of your buddy, how to recognize when your buddy's having a problem, right? And not just to say, hey, you okay? No, hey, what's bugging you, right? I mean, they give them that training, right? That training. That's what we should do for every firefighter, every officer, right? Awareness level, awareness for yourself, awareness for your teammates, and what are those situations or signals where, you call for help, right? Now in hazmat, what's the next level of response? Operations, right? Firefighters, full protective structural firefighting gear, SCBA, don't come in contact with the product because that is not chemical protective clothing, right? So we teach you defensive tactics, right? How to keep the problem from getting bigger or contain the problem until the cleanup company arrives to take care of the problem, right? Over to mental health. This is where peer support comes in, right? The people who have got a little bit more training, a little bit more experience to be able to, when somebody does go, hey, I think Robert could use a little help, right? Or Robert calls and says, hey, I'm not feeling so good. Okay. Now we got somebody who's got some additional training, some additional listening skills, etc. Okay. To either say, hey, it's okay. It's okay. Those people within 30 days are going to start feeling better. Okay. But how about we check back in 30 days? And if you're still feeling like this, let's talk about talking to the next level. Okay.
Yeah, I got.
Go over to the technician side, right? Technician hazmat response. Learn how to work in the funny suits, right? How to actually get into the hot zone and take active actions to stop the flow, stop the problem, et cetera, right? Also incorporates a lot more knowledge, right? Because before we go in there with the funny suits, we're going to know what this stuff is, how it reacts, what we should be on the lookout for, what are the dangers, all that stuff, right? Over here, in the mental health response, this is where the bulk of our mental health clinicians are. These are all of our master's level clinicians, licensed clinical social workers, licensed clinical psychologists, family and marriage and family therapists. All of these different clinician levels were very, skilled at intervention for particular issues, right? So that's our technician level over here, right? Just like a fire department hazmat team, what's the largest number of people on the team? Technicians. You got to have people to do the work, right? Well, that's where the bulk of our mental health clinicians are going to be in most communities, is at that level, okay? Specialist level on hazmat. You got experience as a technician. You've got an additional, training. I still say hazmat chemistry,
Oh, yeah.
2-week hazmat chemistry.
Yeah. That was a good
Still
one.
the hardest class I've ever been in. And that includes the second grade with Sister Loretta.
Yeah. That was yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Gotcha.
And so you not only have all that additional knowledge, right? But now you're trained to the level where you're expected to be able to help manage the incident, right? You're probably going to be the incident commander, or you're going to be the ops chief, right? Running the hazmat operation and managing those technicians that are doing the job. And that's where your psychologists come in at that fourth level of the mental health response. The peak. Not only are they trained in intervention, right? But there are 4 domains of psychology. There's assessment, doing pre-employment assessments, fitness for duty assessments. So assessments, obviously interventions, right? Somebody needs mental health services type of stuff. This is the one that really fascinates me, and that is industrial and organizational psychology. These psychologists, and one of the funniest and I think smartest ones that I'm aware of out there is a guy named Andrew Holton. Okay, but IO psychologists help organizations figure out, what are we doing well psychologically? What are we not doing well? How do we improve that? So, for instance, looking at, as we were talking about earlier, how do you integrate the whole mental health into all of the possible injuries to a firefighter, whether they're physical, whether they're mental, whatever. Okay, that's the kind of work that IO psychologists are really, really good at. Okay, helping you to understand, why do people do what they do. Okay,
Definitely.
and then the fourth domain is operations, right? And one of my colleagues up in Ontario, Canada, Jamie Richard, is writing an awful lot of stuff about this, and the aspect of performance coaching.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay? Show me a professional athlete or a major college athlete that doesn't have a sports psychologist, right? We should. And why do they do that? It's not because that psychologist is going to help them hit a baseball any better, or throw a football any better, or shoot the 3 any better. It's to help them keep their brain from getting in the way of their performance.
Yeah.
Right? Well, what do we expect from an incident commander? We expect top-notch performance, right? We expect them to see all the cues. We expect them to understand all the information they're getting, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes that doesn't work. Okay? But how many times do we go back and look at an incident and say, what were you thinking?
Yeah. How'd you miss that?
What was going through your mind? Okay. More importantly, what was going on before you ever got there? Okay. In my mind, a performance coach for a fire department would be helping those command officers to know and understand what how they get to those thought processes. Okay. And what are things that perhaps they're doing back here that are counterproductive when it gets up here? Okay. So that's what operations does.
Yep.
It's you really see that in the police psychology, right? Operations working in police psychology, and how to make better decisions when it comes to shoot, no shoot. How to make better decisions, when initially you come up on a hostage situation, those types of things. But there's an awful lot of area there to work with fire. Why do firefighters not wear their seatbelts? Why?
It boggles my mind.
I think
No clue.
I think back in November, I took a quick look, just a quick Google search, and like in November we had like 6 or 7 incidents where fire apparatus and occupants were ejected from the fire apparatus.
Yeah, that should not happen.
What? How do firefighters not understand that the manufacturers have created probably the safest fire apparatus that has ever roamed the earth, right?
Yep.
You got a steel roll cage that's the envy of NASCAR, right? You got airbags that come from every direction. And for the last 10 years at least now, the apparatus comes with onboard computer system that determines, hey, the fire apparatus is no longer in its vertical orientation. It's headed this way. Deploy airbags. So it doesn't even have to get on its side.
Yep.
Before that happens. Okay? Well, we can't fasten a seatbelt?
Yep.
What's up with that?
Most basic of basics, eh?
But see, that's the kind of thing that psychology can help us to understand is why do we do what we do? And more importantly, how can we work on undoing that?
Yep. So in those 4 levels, which I think is great to break those down for everyone listening, I also think there's maybe a 4B or a 5 where it's fire service educated professionals, mental health professionals, right? Where they understand
culturally
the culture.
competent, we call them.
Yeah, exactly.
Culturally competent.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
We talk our slogan, if you will, is we're working to build a bridge between professional psychology and the fire service. Right?
Love it.
You got the psychologists, many of whom over here have no idea what a firefighter does. Okay? Certainly don't understand what we do, why we do it, how we do it, the conditions under which we do it. All those things like wacky work schedules, 2 families, work family, family. Okay. All of those types of things. On the other hand, got fire service over here on the other side of the river, right? Those psychologists who don't want to go there. Okay. Especially if you think that it might be the end of your career. If you get caught going to a psychologist, my gosh. Okay. So we're working on 2 fronts. Number 1 is to create culturally competent clinicians, people who truly understand all those things about firefighters. And we've developed a culturally competent clinician training program, which we're hoping that we're going to stay on schedule to roll that out next month. The Corona, California Fire Department.
Oh, yes.
And basically the program involves day 1 is a general overview of the fire service and fire departments. Okay. No particulars, just this is how fire departments are typically organized. This is how they get dispatched to calls. This is the difference between an engine company and a truck company and a rescue company and a paramedic unit and all that. Then the second day, in this case, will be the Corona Fire Department. taking the clinicians signed up for this, taking them out to their training ground, right? And letting them see these things in action, right? They'll also explain how in their particular department, how they're organized, right? Also, if they have the opportunity, if clinicians want to engage in, putting on the PPE and going in the smoke building, a lot of departments have already done that sort of thing with their citizen fire academies and stuff like that. Okay. Then the clinician gets a task book, and this task book is, they would take that task book and meet with, say, your fire department, okay, because they're in your community. Say, Chief, I got this task book, and this is what the program's all about. Blah 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 blah. And you say, okay, great, yeah, I endorse. Yeah, you can ride along with our people to get these things done. Well, the big thing is the task book is more than just ride and watch. Okay. You agree to work with me on this. When I go to a fire station, the officer on duty that day, if I'm there for a 6-hour tour, we're going to work through a couple of the things in that task book, which, starts out with the basics. This is, you're in a station that has an engine company. And this is what we do. This is what the officer does. This is what the engineer does. This is what the firefighters do. Okay. Progress to things like, when a call comes in, how do we get ready? What do we do to go out the door? Right? How do we determine where the address is and all that sort of thing? So you start to get an idea of how this all works, right? We put some turnout gear on you. We take you out back of the station. We give you a charged 1 3/4 line and let you drag it around a little bit, right? Get the idea of, okay, what's starting to go through my mind as I'm starting to heat up, right? My muscles are starting to get a little, okay, I got something going here, right? So to help understand where we're coming from, when we come to them and go, man, I don't know. Or the problem, the problem isn't in the fire station, isn't what's going on here. This is my problem at home. Well, that as a clinician, you understand that what's going on over here is directly linked with what's going on over here, right? Or that at least you have to be aware of the fact that this is over here, okay? Or if I'm dealing with a workplace issue, right, or on the job issue, that this is also, I need to be cognizant of this as we're working through your particular issues. So it's and by giving them the task book and giving them the 40 hours, get them however works best for you. Saying it's a large department, it's got 25 fire stations, right? Clinician could choose to work 10 hours in 4 different fire stations, right? To get a feel for the different, or small town clinician. Maybe there's a couple of volunteer fire departments that are within, their service area, if you will, to be able to spend time at each of those places, because each of those places is going to be a little bit different than the other ones. Okay? One of the first things I taught my fire service psychology associates, the mental health folks, is in the United States, there is no fire service. Okay? It's not a national service like a UK or Spain, France. Okay. We got all kinds of nations, east of the Mississippi, west of the Mississippi, north, south. And then within those nations, we got all kinds of tribes, right? We got career departments of all sizes. We got paid on call. We got volunteer. We got combination departments. And And then when I explain that stuff to them, their eyes go, "Whoa!"
Totally.
I
Yeah.
say, "Yeah, the fire service is very much a misnomer."
Yep, I would agree. Well, it's beautiful that's coming out, and I'm assuming that it also creates a bit of safety for the firefighters to know that they have somebody they can go and talk to that understands a little bit more about their life, which makes kind of the doors open a little bit more for access to professional help, right?
Well, the other thing too is that it's not just a question of, um, yeah, they know what we do, but you get to know people.
Mhm. Yeah.
Get
Build
to
a
know
relationship.
people,
Yeah.
that relationship there. And, we feel that is, I mean, that's certainly important in any context, but particularly in smaller communities, where
Mm.
everybody knows your name,
Yep.
right? It
Totally.
makes it even more difficult for a firefighter um, uh, to seek the help that they might need, right? Because now there's also the fear of, what if what if everybody finds out?
Mm.
So a culturally competent clinician could be aware of that and be able to say, "Hey, Robert, look, don't come see me. Go see my colleague over here. I mean, she's just like me. Okay, go over there. That way you can maintain your anonymity, get the help that you need. And even if I can't do that, okay, I can make arrangements so that maybe we don't meet in my office. Okay, let's go meet over here, and then we can get the rumor started that you're having an affair." Right?
When are we ever gonna get to the spot where people, firefighters mostly, feel that they can just openly say, I have professional therapist, I have a psychologist, just like they have a family doctor. When are we gonna get there? Because that's frustrating me that it's still so taboo.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think well, probably more than two things. But let's start with two. I think every fire chief in America should go see a therapist.
Here, here.
Okay,
Yep.
just go see a therapist, establish a relationship, and see him on a regular basis. Okay, because there sure as hell is probably things that need to be dealt with. Okay, but even if there aren't, and then that fire chief needs to go public and tell all of their people, "This is what I've done.
Yep.
This is what I continue to do on a monthly basis or every other month basis." Okay. And this is what it has done for me. Okay. So I encourage you to, and I think that needs to be a message that's communicated more than once. Okay. It's the kind of thing that should be on a poster in the fire station with the fire chief's picture on it, with, a pertinent quote from what it did for me. Right. And you
Uh-huh.
make it different once for every fire station.
Mhm.
Right. So it's a different one every fire station. Right. Got to
Absolutely.
lead by example. Right. I mean, we talked about this. Oh God. I mean, when I first became a staff officer in operations, at one of my bosses, a mentor of mine, now retired Deputy Chief Jim Graham, back in Chesterfield, that if you arrived on the emergency scene, you put on your PPE.
Mm.
Okay, didn't matter if you were going to be the safety officer, or if you were going to be the PIO. Didn't matter that you weren't going into the hazard area. You wear your PPE out here because they're wearing their PPE in there. Okay, leading by example. Got to lead from the front, and so I think that's one thing. I
Love it.
think the other thing that could have a real powerful motivator is as we talked about earlier. If we bring mental health in here, okay, it's not a standalone. Okay,
Mm.
it's just another type of injury that firefighters fear.
Yep.
They fear this just like they fear blowing out a shoulder, blowing out a knee, back. Okay, I mean, every firefighter is one call away from retirement. Okay. I'll never forget, early in my career, we went to a motor vehicle crash and we backboarded this patient and we're going to lift him off the pavement. And one of the guys that I'm working with, we start to lift and I hear a shotgun go off. It was his back.
Oh, ouch.
Never came back to the job.
Ow. That sounds painful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
that's it.
Yep.
End of
Yep.
story.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
So,
Well, I went
when,
through the same thing. I had back surgery like 50 years ago, L5S1. And I thought for months, I'm never going to be a firefighter again. Never going to be a firefighter again. And that was scary for sure.
and there was nobody telling you different, was there?
No. I was on my own, 100%.
Yeah.
On my own.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if we can start addressing that, start tackling that, okay? How do we, number one, like I said, bring mental health in here, all right? Your siblings, physical injuries, mental injuries, okay? Your siblings, okay? So we're going to take a systematic, holistic approach in how we manage all of them.
Love it.
Okay. So that if you got a physical injury, there's what are the mental health things we can do to help you heal faster, heal better, right? Not keep you from becoming lonely, keep you integrated with the people that you work with the organization. Okay. And if you gotta take time off for a mental health issue, same thing, man. Same thing. Okay. Maybe I'm not bringing you back to the fire station every day, but how about if the fire chief had lunch with you every other week while you're out, right?
Yeah.
Or your
Make
boss,
a
or
huge
your
difference.
boss
Mhm.
had lunch with you. Said,
Yep.
how you doing?
Mhm.
Do you need anything? Okay. And if you say something that you need and make it happen, that's the kind of stuff that resonates with people.
100%.
You know, that personal connection that oh, they do care about me.
Mhm.
I think if we could do those two things, I think that would have a huge impact on getting rid of that. And again, I think I'm committed to getting rid of the word stigma.
Mhm.
Okay?
Mhm.
It's not a unique thing. Okay, it's that fear that firefighters have of losing the job.
Yep. That makes so much sense.
You know, and that's why they hide injuries. That's why they work when they're hurt, whether that's hurt here, hurt here, hurt there.
But it's also
You know,
addiction comes into it too, where they try to hide or numb the pain, right? So I don't want to feel
self
this.
medication.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So man, things we could change, eh? Well, I guess that's a challenge to the listeners right now is maybe to work on those two things and see what we can do to progress the fire service ahead and make it a more holistic approach to it. I love it. I love it. Well, that's the whole purpose of this podcast. It's a holistic approach. It's the mind, body, and spirit of being an elite firefighter. Mind, body, and spirit. It's not just the
Yeah.
mind,
Yeah.
not just the body. It's everything, right? So, yeah. So as we wrap up, Robert, I'd love to hear a little bit about the association, just kind of who it serves and maybe kind of what the purpose and the goal of, and maybe your role in that as well.
Well, we're the Fire Service Psychology Association, FSPA, and you can reach us at firepsychology.org. Firepsychology.org. And we're an organization of fire service folks like myself, some active duty, some retired. In fact, Dr. Bert Clark is one of our members. Bert's a smart dude.
Yep. 100%.
Smart dude.
Mhm.
And then we've got psychologists and other mental health professionals, right? All the the specialist and technician level folks in the
Nice.
mental health field. And as I mentioned, we're working to build a bridge between the fire service and professional psychology so that psychologists know and understand what firefighters do, why they do it, how we do it, conditions under which we do it, so that if a firefighter comes to them, that they don't have to spend the first 4 or 5 hours explaining what they do for a living, right? It should be able to get right down to what's on your mind. Why are we here? Okay. From the fire service side is demystifying that whole thing. Okay. That, hey, there's not a lot of difference between a psychologist and a physician, right? Physician went to school, learned how to take care of physical injuries. Psychologist went to school, same amount of time, to learn how to deal with mental injuries. Well, let me just throw out something real quick, right? And that is, we've come across research, particularly it was done in the UK, and in other places in Europe, and that is that if you take 10 people and expose them all to the same traumatic event, after 30 days, only 2 of those 10 people are going to have unresolved issues with that traumatic event. 8 out of 10 people, by the time they get to 30 days, their brain will have successfully processed that and put it where it belongs.
Okay.
Only 2 people outside of that 30 days who are going to, number one, doesn't mean that, on day 31, you need to go see a psychologist. No, on day 31, it means we're going to check in with you again in 2 weeks or maybe at the 60-day mark, right? How you doing? Still having those nightmares? Okay. And if that's the case, you know what, Bob, you really need to seek some professional help. Okay. Because your brain has still not figured out where that has to go so that it doesn't keep you awake at night. So it doesn't have you waking up in a cold sweat. Okay. Those are abnormal responses that your brain hasn't figured out how to deal with yet. Okay. So let's get you the help to get there. And that's a big part of a new training initiative that has come about from that. It's called trauma risk management, thin for short. Okay. And I like to refer to it as peer support 2.0.
Love it.
Okay. Because it's a systematic process that we could give to peer support team members, right? Look, when a traumatic event happens, rather than sitting down with everybody and saying, "Oh, is anybody having an issue? Anybody having a problem with this?" We don't do anything for 72 hours.
Hmm.
And at the end of 72 hours, then let's talk to everybody individually and find out where are they on the progression, right? Some people after 72 hours are going to be fine. Okay. But in a minimum, we're going to check in with everybody at 30 days. So 72 hours, 30 days. Let's not pathologize the 10. Let's make sure we don't miss the 2. Okay. And I think it's got tremendous opportunity for, like I say, peer support teams to be able to have some objective process criteria. Like I said, let's find out who the folks are who really need us, because they've reached that point where the brain still hasn't dealt with this issue as it really should.
That makes a lot of sense. are you saying this is a peer support, or is this replacing like CISM, critical incident stress?
Well, I think that if peer support teams get a look at TRIM, and we've got a white paper that's available on our website
Sure.
that outlines the whole program, where it came from, how it works, etc. I think that the peer support teams would look at this and go, "Wow, yeah, 2.0,
Nice.
2.0, give us a better tool to work with."
Mhm.
Okay, because the other thing is the research behind CISM doesn't show results.
Mm. Mm.
You know, whereas these studies that were done in the UK with fire service, with law enforcement, indicate that again, most people, the research shows 8 out of 10 by 30 days, just not an issue.
Right.
Their brains have successfully figured out, parked it
Process
back
it.
in long-term storage.
Yep.
Don't come up again. It certainly has promised to be a really good tool, like I said, to avoid missing the two that really need you.
That's super important.
And again, maybe it doesn't even lend itself to, oh, you got to seek
Mhm.
professional help with, but just the fact that, okay, they talked to me at 72 hours. They checked back in with me at 30 days. They said, a little bit, you're still having nightmares, right? But let's just stay in touch and see how things go. That may be all it takes for them to get to that place where they need to be. But but on the other hand, if at the end of 60 days it's still an issue, well, we both know we've done something, and something hasn't worked so far.
Yep.
So let's try something else. And that's where you go to you bring in the technician level, right?
Like it.
You bring
Yes.
in the technician level. And if you don't, and if you're lucky, and in your community, you not only have technician level, but you got specialist level,
Mhm.
even better, right? Because
Yeah.
if it turns out that the clinician can't help you, you got that as well.
Yeah. And it just demonstrates that you as the fire chief or the employer cares. You care because you're actually following up. Like there's probably too many incidents out there that you could think of where you follow up in 24 hours or that same night or whatever traditionally, and then never talk to them again about it. Right. Just kind
Well,
of
the other thing
drift off.
too is with trim, it doesn't necessarily have to be peer support
Mm.
people, right? You could train all of your company officers, all of your first line leaders,
Mm.
right? So after a call, maybe the next shift or 2 shifts later, right? One-on-one, you sit down and you say, Robert, how you doing?
Mm.
Okay. That was a pretty rough call we had a couple shifts ago. Just checking in on you. Are you okay? You know, it's not just a case of me asking whatever questions I want to come up. It's, hey, are you having nightmares? Are you having this? How's your sleep sleep? There's an objective criteria for me to use to check in with you.
Mm. Love
So that's a tool that in my mind, every first line leaders should be
Mm.
acquainted with.
Well, Robert, it's been a pretty eye-opening conversation we've had, and I think lots of little gems in there of, especially the visual pictures of, using sports and how we can make that holistic approach. I think you planted lots of seeds and even challenged us to look at those 2 points to be better as leaders in the fire service. So, really want to appreciate your time sharing those. Um, yeah, I think we're at the kind of the beginning of a major shift, I think, in the fire service.
I hope so.
I can feel it. I can feel it. Excellent. Any final words on your end?
No,
No?
no, I need a cold Coke.
Sounds good. I got one question for you to finish off.
All right.
What does Robert need more support in your life?
Wow. What a great question.
Thanks.
What a great question. You know, I can't think of a thing. Okay. I was married to a wonderful woman that I knew for 40 years, was married to for 37. We count those other years as the rent to own period. Unfortunately, I lost her 3 years ago. I was able to capture lightning in a bottle a second time. I met this wonderful woman, been together 2.5 years now. So I mean, that part of my life, what can it, you know, I got a wonderful DBGG, daughter by the grace of God, and never referred to as my stepdaughter.
Nice.
I've got 2 grandsons. I got 2 great granddaughters,
Wow.
10 and 7. They're a handful.
Mhm.
Okay. Living the dream, man.
That's good. That's good. I love to hear that. Yeah, I think it's one of those questions that people maybe don't get asked enough, right? Is what kind of extra support do they need in their life, right? So, and when other people say that, I could really use this in my life, it once again sets an example for other people to listen to and go, yeah, I could do that as well, right? So beautiful. Well, Robert, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope we can stay connected. There was more stuff we wanted to talk about today, but I'd love to dive into it down the road again in the future. So all the
Yeah,
best to
I
you.
tell you, I would really welcome the opportunity to chat again about retirement,
Yes, I think that is a key one.
preparing for it,
Yeah.
and living it.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
Let's make it
absolutely.
happen. Let's make it happen.
All right.
All right, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed this awesome conversation with Robert Avsec and all the nuggets that he shared today and the challenges that he placed upon you. So,
And none of them were chicken nuggets.
no, none of them are chicken nuggets, just gold nuggets. Gold nuggets. All right, everyone. Thank you. Until next time, stay well.
Happy trails.
Thank you for tuning in to Beneath the Helmet. We hope that this podcast has provided you with valuable insights into the world of firefighters' health and wellness. Remember, caring for your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is crucial to achieving optimal performance. Join us next time on Beneath the Helmet for more inspiring conversations. Until then, stay well.